There we go. Back to normal. And as predicted, after only, I think it's actually been more like 5 days. No lift yesterday, but I did like a double lift the day before. Maybe not ideal, but that was when I got to hit chest with Luke and Lex. Those guys were freaking. That was fun. And I know that was very different than how these videos usually go, because that wasn't really like. There was, not that there's ever a script, but that wasn't. Yeah, that was just like we were just having a good lift, and I was bringing the camera along with us. But yeah, so only after a few days, holy crap, guys, I'm down 5 pounds. I woke up at 260 this morning. Incredible. I've already lost 5 pounds of body fat in only 5 days. That's a pound a day. This is sweet. Not exactly. Not freaking exactly. So that's what I call we could call it the water loss phase. Really the glycogen loss phase, but that's almost a little bit too complicated to say. But the gist is to go from eating more food than necessary, in a bulk, a calorie surplus, to now even just dropping to maintenance, maybe barely below maintenance, just kind of right there. What that's going to do is going to make me burn through my, internal, basically, muscle sugar, or kind of sugar water that I've got all over the place, and use that as energy because it's very, quick to burn through. Like somebody who ran a full marathon, just from that exertion, if they didn't eat anything, by the end of it, they're going to be much lighter, like semi-significantly. Or at least they're going to run through their glycogen stores much faster than, any kind of regular-ass dude. So, basically, you could say my carb stores are more like half full rather than full. So that's 5 pounds off there, which is really, it's nothing. That doesn't mean 5 pounds of any weight loss progress, but you kind of have to be in a state of lower fullness to, this is how I feel about the matter when I look at it. Like if I'm imagining how I would describe like the conditions that I need to be in to lose body fat. One, obviously I need to eat in a calorie deficit. But two, I need to be in a state where I have to burn my body fat as energy rather than any other source. So you basically got two sources of energy stored all over the place. All your muscle cells have a little kind of storage container. You could say vacuole, I don't know the exact term, but that's where you've got a whole bunch of glucose. If you remember anything from like biology or whatever, glucose to ATP, mitochondria kind of deal, that's a very quick process, and it's efficient. So if I've got a whole bunch of basically sugar throughout my whole body, like let's say tonight I ate 10 bags of Skittles, tomorrow I'm probably not really going to be running off of any body fat as energy. If I basically just filled up all my carb stores, I'm going to run through those first. So it's like I've got to be at a lower carb level internally so that I have to say, shit, now I got to start burning body fat. That's not the clearest explanation, but that's kind of how I sort of look at it. So now I've gone from that full carbed up state to a little bit more of kind of just a flatter state. And if I stay in my calorie deficit, or at least barely below maintenance, like I will, then I know I'm going to start burning through my actual fat reserves slowly but surely. Now, I'm not eating so little that I have to back off the intensity of my workouts just yet. That might happen later, like, last few weeks of really trying to push like a bodybuilding show ready leanness kind of look, because it's really just not sustainable. Like I'll diet down and there's going to be a point when I'm like 230 something where it's a very sustainable level of leanness, like at least physically, where I could stay that lean and train that hard and basically just be good. Like if I wanted to, I could probably stay in that same look for a long time. But to push it any further than that, I might have to chill out in the lift intensity, just so I don't kind of overdo it in terms of like just cortisol and stress and fatigue and everything else. Because there's a different goal in mind rather than, you know, training crazy hard. Then that's going to be, you know, getting that specific look, which, you know, that's just kind of the nature of a bodybuilding prep. But plan for today with legs. I've eaten a decent amount of food. Nothing wild. I think I'm at like 1,700 calories so far. And right now I'm in the honeymoon phase of this diet because I just came off of a bulk and I'm just not, I'm kind of sick of food a little, you know. So these first few weeks are very easy because I don't even really want to chow down at all. You know, like it's almost like I've had my fill of a ton of food, and now I can finally relax and say, okay, oof, I don't have to, you know, eat when I'm not hungry, you know. But in about probably 2 months or so, I'll actually have to really make sure I plan my calories accordingly, like have specifically sized meals, all with like a similar amount of carbs and proteins and everything else evenly throughout the day, so that I can give myself a good, you know, a good bet of not having to eat anything big that night, just because, you know, I'm feeding for something and I can't go to sleep. So for me, you know, maybe saving meal number one, and instead of, you know, just eating right when I wake up, I'm just saving whenever I first start eating till like noon rather than right in the morning when I get up. That helps, because then I've got less time to eat throughout the day, like in that eating window. So the meals that I do eat, they can end up being a little bit larger. Excuse me. But today with legs, I'm going to go basically as wild as feasible. Hams, quads, calves, basically try to get these things as swollen as possible. And this will be a good starting point of like looking at a week by week by week by week kind of look. Because now, I mean, even after dropping that 5-ish, maybe 6 or so pounds of just kind of internal water and sugar and everything else, now is a good baseline of like nothing fast like that is really going to happen again. You know, there's not going to be a phase of this diet where I said, holy crap, I lost 10 pounds in a week. It's going to be very steady, very slow, but that's the point, right? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So as long as you're still on reasonable track on the regular, it's just a waiting game, right? The difficulty isn't doing it. It's more so in keeping doing it, in the sense of like, you know, if you dug a hole in, let's say you're locked up in prison, Shawshank style, and you got a spoon and like a little hammer. Sure, you might only get a little handful of dirt and walk it out to the yard every day, but after long enough, hey man, you're a freaking millionaire on a boat in whatever beachy area those guys ended up in. You're living the dream, you know. So all that's to say is don't lose hope, and not even hope, but don't lose your grit. You know, if you start dieting for real, right when you started that, or whatever feelings that you kind of heard, like, I'm gonna make this shit happen, just don't forget that, right? As hard as it may be, and just as mundane as, and like, there's no one around to see you cheat on your diet. Like, you're not gonna get in trouble if you eat 2 tubs of Ben and Jerry's just because you felt like it. But you'll know, right? And the more you can value that, the more you can value like knowing that you gave yourself a challenge and you stick to it, and nobody else was there to make sure you did it, right? There's nobody else to give credit to except for you. Then that's a good state of being, I feel. But I can guarantee that the gym is going to be empty tonight, so let's just go get started. Oh. Oh my gosh. That's good. Oh, quick little fiver. Let's move on. Holy shit. All right, so let's start with some presses, move on to some hamstrings, and then kind of make quads a two-parter by coming back for leg extension, sissy squat, kind of pump work. I think that'll be a good combo. Really what I'm saying is I don't want to break my momentum of the heavy pressing, which I already just started very well with that set of squats. And that wasn't too wild. Honestly, I should have done a few more reps. But the nice part about having your own space, I left these plates on from last leg day, and after those squats, I'm warm for a heavy press. I did a feeler rep, of course. Perfect. So this will be a little quicker, higher volume, at least for the set, and then we'll just go from there. I'm definitely gonna be drenched tonight. Ooh, okay, come on. Let's get some NAS. Been on a NAS kick lately. Actually, have I? Am I thinking of a little NAS? No, that doesn't sound right either. What the hell is going on here? Am I crazy? Oh, NAV. What am I saying? NAV, if that's how it is. Okay. And there we go. Okay. Whew. Okay. Yeah. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you think I'm wrong, but I think there's a benefit to doing more volume on pressing with slightly less intensity. So instead of trying to do like 6 plates over there for one and have that be like it for heavy pressing, because then I'm gonna have to be clocked out. It'd just be too much. Pulling back and leaving a few reps in reserve just for the sake of being able to do more overall volume. Because if you really smack your quads to failure, it's just so much. Like, I couldn't do another one of those squat sets in a row. But even if I went heavier, I'd feel like I just have to do leg extensions, and that'd be the end of it, you know? So every set's a failure, end all be all. I wouldn't say that's the case. But if all your sets suck and you leave 10 reps in the tank, that's a different scenario, you know? So it's always this middle ground somewhere, which kind of makes it a little ambiguous. But I mean, I'm probably gonna do like 4 more sets of those. Oh. Oh. Whew. Oh, man. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay. Let's do some curls. Oh, I need an air conditioner in here. Oh. Let's start with light-ish squeezing curls. And by light-ish, I just mean a weight that I can hold at the top for a moment. If it's too heavy, I'd lose that in the hold. And if I want to do a heavy set, I'll go over to that hammer strength seated curl I like. A little much. There we go. Okay. Oh, crap. Oh, okay. A few more of those. But I'm feeling a good chunk of hamstrings just on those leg press. So hams will probably be a little lower volume today. Oh, crap. Whoa. Okay, that one hit me a little harder than I expected. All right, let's start with some alternating single leg and then go from there. Okay. Oh, God. I'm thinking a superset of decent weight double leg, jump backwards, and do body weight sissy squats with assistance just from holding on. Not just for balance. I mean, doing sissy squats in the middle of, just in the middle of the floor would be kind of wild. But also for the last few, I can still get into that deep stretch and drop myself into position with, tension, but I can pull myself up. So even if my quads are like just about as cooked as they can get, I can still get a couple more out. And as a finisher, I definitely value, at least sometimes, rapid stretch to contracted. And there's not a crazy squeeze on a sissy squat. At the top, you're just standing up. But just really going back from, squeeze to stretch quickly, just that rapid like opening and closing of everything, it always ends up being a good finisher for me pump wise. So sometimes for triceps as a finisher, I might just bust out like lightweight push downs or manageable weight push downs for like 20 quick ones, just to really get things moving. Or sometimes with chest, bend over, do some quick cable crossover, kind of even a hand over hand, deep squeeze, stretch really quick like that. Not every movement requires it. For back, I like finishing more with a squeezing set of something, but it's just a personal preference thing. I don't think there's a ubiquitous rule. I mean, there's not a ton of rules when it comes to working out in terms of making it work, apart from, figuring out what obviously kind of works a little, so it's kind of silly to say, but also what you can get behind. I'd have a hard time doing like a cardio-based, like plyometric workout, not only because my cardio compared to someone who really does that sort of stuff would suck, but let's say I worked on it, whatever. I just wouldn't have as much fun with it, and I probably wouldn't bring it as hard because it's just not a kind of training I resonate with. I really can get behind squats and leg press and leg extensions or bench and everything like that. Like just these kind of standard lifts, that's what gets me excited. If you're a bit more of like a full body kind of guy and it's working for what your goals are, and in your mind you're like, look, I've got an entire body. You're always doing functional. Like if you're, going way back when and you're trying to hunt down a woolly mammoth or whatever, you're not just isolating your biceps, you're using everything. Like I get the logic. And I think that's important just to really like be able to feel it. Know that when you're coming into the gym, no matter what you're doing, you've got a reason to be there. And that reason is important to you. And that makes it feel like an activity rather than a chore. If you're a clean freak in the sense of like you just like everything nice and tidy, maybe more than the average dude, you're not going to think that like, oh God, this sucks, I got to clean up. You're like, I want this to look nice again. So it's something where the actual objective difficulty of a task can kind of be morphed either harder or easier by whatever's motivating, whoever it is to do it. Like some guys, they need to go on a run. That's what they like. A few miles around the block, or maybe if you're in the country, just around like the big block of whatever's around you. That doesn't feel like work. If you told me, Sam, you got to go run for an hour. What? Like, it just would not work. But all I'm saying is make sure you have a reason for why you're doing things, because then you'll do them that much harder and get that much more results with them. But I better go extra hard after I just spent 3 minutes freaking chit-chatting. Sometimes you distract me because like I got one more good set to do. All right, come on. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm supposed to. All right. Mind the huffing and puffing. Oh, but I am freaking sweaty. It's not like 90 in here, but it ain't that cool either. And you can get like these water cooled, I don't know, I gotta look it up. Because you can't just buy like a little AC unit, because it's gotta exhaust the hot air somewhere. It's not like it just disappears. And if you get like a water cooled sort of thing, then you're gonna bump your humidity in the place to freaking, crazy levels. I don't want that either. But yeah, in terms of pumped on minimal carbs, yeah, that is what I want to see for sure. And then the leaner I get, the more impressive that'll look. Not only just from like having more, cuts and everything else, But also, even just standing, for one, veins all over the place. But you might think negligible amount of body fat right in here around my like my knees. There's not a ton of tissue. It's really just this, tunnel of tendons that go from hamstrings to, calves to everything. That'll start to shrink down a little bit as well. Plus my waist and all the muscle in here, keeping my legs thick, that won't shut down so quick, if any at all. So my proportions will kind of get a bit of a buff, and that's going to start to look pretty freaking cool. But let's shut this place down and get home. I'm ready to go to sleep. There we go. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to start splitting up legs, because I used to do chest and back on the same day, and I stopped doing those together and split them up into their own lift, because at least for me, as a body part, each on its own is big enough that it kind of demands its own day, its own, because to add much else, it's kind of like, it's not doing a slightly longer workout, it's like trying to do workouts after each other, like for me to have finished chest, I'm like, that was a good lift, nice, and then now I've got a whole back workout. And it's different if you superset them and then you kind of combine the two and go back and forth. And in a dieting phase, I can kind of see the logic a little more, just for maybe if you're trying to increase your frequency and maybe lower the volume of each body part on their own. But to do each at once just kind of works out. So when I diet down, I usually end up backing off on my leg volume, just because there's such a big muscle that to do both at once kind of, for one, it'll get to the point where for me to do a leg day like that today, and even that was like relatively chill, that wasn't like 10 sets of crazy leg press or anything. My quads I'd still feel them later on in the week by the time the next leg day would go down, just because I'm kind of compromising my recovery from eating less calories, and not compromising in a bad way, but just it's just the nature of eating less food, So as much as I don't want to change like the intensity of the lifts, like I still want to bring it, I do have to make some adjustments in terms of sometimes the frequency, and rest days will become a little bit more prevalent later on, not so much right now, but as time progresses. So I think next I'll see. I've got chest and then back and then arms, and I'm going to start throwing shoulders in a bit more too, just to make sure they stay big as I get leaner. But I think the next leg day might be the first one of back and forth, where it goes hams on one day, quads on the other. Hams, quads, like that. Just kind of cutting their volume a touch. But no need to worry about that now. Now I gotta go home. If you can understand that part. Now all I've got to do is go home, eat something, and then go to freaking bed. I'm going to sleep very well. And I brought the cardio bike inside. It's in the basement next to my desk. Yeah, if there's any hack or thing that you can, add to your routine to increase at least probably your likelihood of consistency and efficiency, putting a cardio machine in your house or somewhere, dude, no driving. You won't have to bring a separate pair of clothes, because you could just instantly throw whatever you're wearing and now sweaty and into your dirty laundry, shower, and get dressed for your real clothes for the day. And it's not like there's a barrier to entry. It's not like I'm saying, look, if you want a home gym, you got to buy a $6,000 Stairmaster. That's the only way. Dude, I'm talking you can get and that they are scrappy. Like you'd be, if you look on Amazon, there's a lot of like walking treadmills where it's like, it's just, it goes right in the floor. There's nothing for your hands or anything to hold on to. And it's just like a step pad. And it works, like it can go, 3.5 miles an hour with a little bit of an incline. If you're a bigger dude, not as good, just because like I had one for a while and I tried it a little bit. It was like $100 or like $150 on Amazon, And if I had to kind of do like a model walk where your feet are like in line with each other, because if you stepped on the edges too much, it's not made for you to wobble, like it wants you right in the center. So maybe if you're a little bit of a, I don't want to say smaller, just maybe a lighter kind of guy, you'd have a bit more luck with those. But you'd be better off just buying one on Craigslist, like a bigger, older one that somebody's had in their basement for years. That is if you're a treadmill guy. And frankly, the treadmill is solid, you know. I like the seated bike just because I can, you know, sit and play on my phone and just kind of, you know, mess around. This guy's fucking crazy. But you can burn a very, I mean, probably a similar amount of calories, or at least get your heart rate up to the same amount on a treadmill. Maybe even a little bit easier, you know. For me to pedal on the recumbent bike, I like it because it makes or at least my torso still. So I can just sit and play on my phone or watch a show or just whatever, you know, go down like random camera rabbit holes and look at lenses and stuff. And before I know it, the 30 minutes is over. Like that, boom. Honestly, the treadmill is a little easier, but you do end up kind of walking a little bit. So if you're more of a, like, watch a show kind of guy during cardio, I think the treadmill you might have a little more luck with. You know, put it up on like a 4 or 5% incline, you know, 3 miles an hour, 3.5 miles an hour, 30 minutes. I mean, if your heart rate was steady at 130, you know, at 1 something, you're good. You know, that counts. It's don't mistake the cardio as this like crazy high intensity, you know, like cinematic montage of slam balls and burpees. Like it is kind of chill, you know. I've seen a lot of, there's one video from a guy where a big ass bodybuilder, and he's like, yeah, the cardio is pretty mindless. I'm just trying to distract myself, get it done. You know, out of everything in the working out sphere, and I don't mean like the dieting, I mean like the actual like physical activity of, let's just say bodybuilding, lifting, whatever. Cardio is the most like a chore. You know, it's not flashy. It's just kind of, it's just something you do. So the point is more so setting yourself up just to, you know, be able to handle it. Right? Don't even think about it. Right? Just jump straight to it. So having a bike at the house, for me at least, and it's an old one. I mean, this was from my grandparents' house. So it's not like anything fancy or new. I've seen them on the side of the road. You know, I'm talking to somebody, these people want you to buy it just so that they can get it out of their house. And really, you don't need like some crazy ass, what's the word? Like consumer grade, or not consumer, but like professional grade thing. Yeah, you're good, you know. But it could be anything, you know. Maybe if you make sure you go outside, run around with your dog or something, and like you do it for long enough, like actually kind of just like, you know, how you kind of juke them or flip them around or something like that. Let's say you live a little bit more close to a city. Now that I'm a little further, if I want to ride a bike around, I'd have to slap it on the back of the car and like drive it in. I think I do want to start doing that a little bit more. It's kind of fun if you're, you know, kind of zipping around around whatever your city is. But yeah, having the bike right there, now my morning is very quick to jump into action. So I'm gonna get back on my my morning routine grind. Not a full Ashton Hall kind of setup, but my own version, where the night before, what I like to do is I'll flatten an energy drink of some kind, or just get like a bottle of caffeine capsules, like 200 milligrams each. Because for morning cardio, I do think being caffeinated not only is going to improve the cardio, just at least by maybe a little margin, but it also kind of just, you know, gets you up. I haven't been doing morning caffeine for a while, but I think it'll, yeah, I think I might have been missing out, because now in the mornings I'm a little groggy until I seriously get moving around. But so get like a liter, maybe a 2-liter water bottle, you know, big ass like jug if you want. Usually I don't like to use the same one for long enough because I'm not always cleaning it. And if you've got a gallon jug and it's like not a transparent plastic and you have not cleaned it for a while, maybe don't look inside of it and just save yourself the trouble and ditch it. But just like an old little like half-gallon milk jug or whatever, fill it up with, or fill it all the way up, caffeine, some sort of electrolyte, you know, it's all the same stuff. And then I'll try to slam that almost instantly. put something on, go down, and just kind of chill, you know. And that is much quicker than actually having to drive to the gym or whoever, unless your gym is like right there, like you live down the street from it. It's kind of a lot of time. Like I do understand the fact that going to the gym twice and one of them just being for cardio is a little much, because then, I mean, you've got what, probably an extra, even if it's a 10-minute drive, you're probably going to sit in the car for a few minutes before you leave, once you get there, and then leaving, and then once you get home. So that's another 30 minutes minimum. Then you got to walk in, put your stuff down, maybe the machine you like is taken. It's just a whole thing, you know. So I think the cost of actually just finding some sort of bike that you like greatly outweighs the detriment of skipping cardio altogether, you know. So that's something where if you do a Instagram story, and I see the stories all the time because only a couple people tag me every day, but what I really want to see is some cardio bikes, or basically some cardio setups. And they don't even have to be like, you know, electric with motors or anything like that. Even the older bikes where it's just like a flywheel and it's got that adjustable kind of like difficulty knob on it, I'd be totally fine with one of those, because now from doing the bike so many times, I mean, holy crap, I don't know how many hours of cardio I've clocked across all machines, but let's just say the bike specifically, because I kind of know what the difficulty should feel like. Like I can get a sense of like, okay, I'm starting to burn my quads out. This, you know, difficulty 12 is too much. And if I got it at difficulty 6, it's like, okay, I'm not doing anything. Like there is kind of a sweet spot where you're feeling a burn, like you can tell you're doing work, you're not doing nothing, but you're not like overdoing it. Like the cardio is supposed to be reasonably chill, right? Low intensity, steady state, if you catch my drift. But if you're like a 1-minute sprint kind of guy, 2 minutes of chill, 1-minute sprint, 2 minutes, that's cool too. Right? Same thing like I was saying about working out. Whatever your cardio of choice, even the style ends up being, lean into that. You know, let's say putting a sweatsuit on and recreating that Rocky montage when he's running through the city is what gets you going. Dude, buy 3 tracksuits on Amazon and get your ass going. Just whatever you can do to get into it. That's my thing. And then the results will speak for themselves. That's honestly, that's probably the truest thing I've ever seen or ever heard. So nothing else to say. I don't know what I gotta do. If these were like cloth seats, this car would stink. But luckily the leather doesn't really absorb anything. And I've had that confirmed. Like the Camry is not a sweat pit, but yeah, I think constantly sitting down drenched might not be my best bet, but who really cares? So I think nothing else to say, but let's get ready for some chest tomorrow. And I'm gonna try a different old school camcorder I got. This one might be a little cooler looking than the last one. It's got a couple more pixels. That those old school videos I did, the few of them, they were cool, but there's old and cool, and then there's old and just kind of bad. You know, like there's a certain sweet spot of quality where it's like, there it is. So I'll see if that looks any good. If not, eBay has a very good return policy. So I'll see you then.